Hello there, this is the 6th edition on News Central Television coming to you live from our Abuja studios. I'm Neo Taigwe and here are our top stories. 9 ISWAP fighters killed in Sambisa airstrike. Bio's proposed electoral reform sparks political tensions. And drone attack rocks Tatarstan, leaves 13 dead and 75 injured. We'll bring you details of all of this and more in a moment. A pre-election security assessment in Osun State is warning of a sharp rise in violence ahead of Saturday's governorship election, with incidents up by 206% compared to 2022. The assessment covered all 30 local government areas with 3,275 respondents across party lines. It also monitored print and social media activity to track political and security trends. It identifies political activities, mining disputes and criminality as key drivers of election violence. The report also warns that problems with PVC collection, BVAS and the distribution of electoral materials could further raise tensions on election day.
The assessment used a mixed method multi-source framework. It draws on a citizen survey of 3,275 respondents across 30 local government areas in Osun State, 15 key informant interview spanning political actor, political party, chairmen, security agencies, traditional institutions, women and youth leaders, civil society, media, and electoral stakeholders. Continuous incident monitoring from October 2025 to August 2026.
This is what electoral violence looks like in 2022, and this is what it is now in 2026. The percentage increase is actually 206%. So it shows that we are currently in a context that is totally different from 2022. And a lot of things were around this: the competitiveness of the elections, the disposition of the actors. And I could also say maybe the word do or die will be too far, but in terms of their disposition to what is happening in the state and so winning the election is very important.
Well, joining us live to discuss this further is the Executive Director of Kimpact Development Initiative, Abu Khalid. Bukola, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
So we see a 206% rise in violence as a major red flag. Everybody will be wondering, what? The question then is, a few things have been highlighted as driving this sharp increase in Osun. But where is the violence most likely to occur? Was that also pointed out in that report?
Absolutely, yes. That was also pointed out in that report. In fact, there are 22 local governments in Osun that have been flagged as basic hotspot as we move towards the election on Saturday. Most especially, like about 5 major local governments: Oshogbo, Olorunda, Ede South, Ilesha West, Ilesha East, and Oriade Obokun. Now, these are all spots that the report is flagging that the security agencies will need to double up their deployment in most of these places, and we need to see how they nip election violence in the bud before it happens. And beyond the security, beyond deployment of the security agencies, one of the drivers of election violence that we have also seen and identified is the preparedness of INEC when it comes to election. Every action of INEC, every processes of INEC, from accreditation to collation to result management announcement, are all flagged as potential for violence. So you can imagine when logistics is not uptight, when people are on queue and election material did not arrive on time in a particular stronghold of an opponent, then that is already potential for violence. Okay. So
Bukola, if
DMAT is not working as it should be, it's already potential for violence. And these are the things we are flagging, that for us to have a peaceful election in Osun, all stakeholders must work effectively.
Okay, Bukola, I was going to interrupt you to take you back a little bit. Logistical issues have been like a recurrent decimal in Nigeria's elections. And some would think that when we have off-cycle elections like Ekiti and now Osun, issues like logistics should not arise because it's just one location, more or less, just one state. So issues like delivery of materials in certain places should not be a problem. Why does it look like it continues to persist?
So two things. Number one is that you might be having an off-cycle election in a particular state, but the actors that you have been engaging for movement of logistic materials have not changed. So you are only having an election with the same actor. So INEC keep engaging the transport union, but it's still the same transport union that has been causing the delay, that has been causing the lapses in most cases when it comes to logistic deployment. So when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you are expecting different results, what do we have to call that? So basically, one of our recommendations is that maybe it's time that INEC need to begin to look beyond the transport worker, because from 2011, you can actually state and look at the trajectory of the results we have been getting from this transport union that we have been engaging, that INEC has been engaging since 2011. And now, for logistic reasons, election has been postponed like about 2 times in this country because of logistic reason. The same set of people you have been using. Now, in some off-cycle election, 2016 election was postponed even in Edo State. Now, you look at the 2023 election, most especially in the southeastern part of the country, logistic delay was rampant. Now, you look at Anambra election in 2011, logistic delay were rampant. In fact, in the just concluded Ekiti, in some local government, there was late deployment, there was late commencement of poll due to logistics. So I think we need to rethink the process of our logistic management, because basically election is about logistics. If the logistics are not intact, then you are likely going to have a flawed election. From deployment, from moving to the rack center, to deploy to the polling unit, and from taking them back to collation center, every of these processes are logistic based. And I think it is time that INEC need to begin to look at another actor that can actually, or vendor that can actually give them what will be the best of service.
We're speaking to Bukola Idowu, Executive Director of Kimpact Initiative. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
And now we're being joined by the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Osun State, Madam Oluwatoyin Babalola. Resident Electoral Commissioner Osun State joins us to look at this report and what INEC is doing to prepare for Saturday's polls. Madam Babalola, thank you for joining us. Well, while we're waiting to get back to Osun State, let's just look at what the timeline is like towards the 2027 general elections. Remember, we'll still be speaking with the Resident Electoral Commissioner on Osun State in a moment. But first, let's get to this point. It's just 159 days to the commencement of the 2027 general elections across the country, minus Osun and Ekiti. According to the timeline put out by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, January 16, 2027 is the date the electorate will vote to elect the president, senators, and members of the House of Representatives. So far, the various political parties have had their internal party activities and have resulted in the pick of their candidates. And ahead of the campaigns, they are already having their names and candidates being confirmed on the INEC portals. But let's look at the timelines in in details. Nigeria is gradually ready for the the Independent National Election, setting out the timeline for the exercise. The process started on February the 13th, 2026, with a notice of election. Political parties have since been working through membership registration, party primaries, which ended on May the 30th. The parties were then to submit their candidates' nomination forms, while INEC will publish the candidates' details and final list ahead of the campaigns. That has happened now, and the campaigns are likely to kick off from this month of August, on August the 19th. Presidential and National Assembly election campaigns will begin, while campaigns for the governorship and state assembly elections will start on September 9. INEC will publish the official voter register for the 2027 general elections on December the 15th. Campaigns will end on January the 14th, ahead of the presidential elections on January 16th. Governorship and state assembly elections will follow on February 16th. The question then to Nigerians, and indeed the electorate and the observing communities, is that how ready are you for the 2027 general elections? Ekiti happened a few weeks ago, and now we're doing the Osun elections this Saturday. These are supposed to be like tests that are testing INEC's preparations for the 2027 general elections. I understand we have the resident electoral commissioner of Osun State joining us now, Madam Oluwatoyin Babalola. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so
okay, go ahead.
Okay, I do know that you're ready for us. Just tell us INEC's level of readiness. How ready is INEC for this election on Saturday?
Well, INEC Osun State is very ready for the election on Saturday. We have carried out a lot of pre-election activities which are geared towards the successful conduct of the election. We have received all our non-sensitive materials, and they are already deployed to local governments. We have batched them into array and polling units. We are going to collect our sensitive materials this week before the election, and we will deploy straight to the local governments for batching into array. We have been having discussions with the security agencies, and through the access, which we call the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, we have shared all the flashpoints which we identified to help them with their planning and synergy, as well as deployment. And currently we have assurance that we are going to conduct the election in a secure and peaceful environment. We still had meetings up till 2 days ago. That was Saturday. We have trained all our staff that are going to participate in the conduct of the election, as well as our ad hoc staff. We concluded all our trainings yesterday, and deployment to the local governments will start on Thursday. As you will recall, all our ad hoc staff were recruited on our portal, which is the INEC Press, and they were recruited based on competence, neutrality, and professionalism. Their list will be released shortly so that they will all report at their various local governments. We have been engaging with stakeholders. We have engaged with the political parties, the media, civil society groups, and transport providers. And we have transport providers that we use. That's NATO, Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, and Nigerian National Association of Road Transport Workers. We have had a lot of engagements with them, and we have assurance that they are going to give us enough vehicles to use to convey our men and materials on election day. We have our own internal ways of monitoring the movement of our men and materials. We are going to have logistic officers deployed to every registration area. Their work is to track the movement of all our materials from the local government to the RA and from the RA to the polling units. We also have monitors from our planning and monitoring department, and we are having one staff. They are all coming from our national headquarters. We are having one staff per RA to monitor the movement of materials. We are having people monitoring. There are monitors. We are having logistic officers, and we are also having election operation staff in each registration area to ensure that those materials are already there in adequate quantity. Even though on our own side at the state office, we already have enough materials. We have sent them, deployed them to the local governments. We have batched them into RA and into polling units. But we have our own internal system of checking to make sure that everything goes on smoothly. And every vehicle that moves, you will never find any vehicle without a security agent inside the vehicle. As regards bimodal voter accreditation system, the beavers, we have them in sufficient quantity. And apart from what we have for every polling unit, we still have 1,328 beavers that we are going to have as backup. In case there is any problem, that is 4 per RA. In case there is any problem with the functionality of any beavers. Aside from this backup, we are going to have registration area technical support staff to provide, who are there to provide technical support for the beavers. And for all the staff we are going to use, our staff, ad hoc staff, and including security personnel, they are all going to subscribe to oath of neutrality, oath of loyalty and neutrality, that they will do what they are supposed to do on election day. We have already sent all these forms to the local governments, which we are going to administer oath on each of them immediately the list is released.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have what we call registration area.
Madam Babalola, if you can hear me.
That we are going to camp on.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Oluwatoyin Babalola. Apparently, you're ready for this election, because one of the other questions I was going to ask you had to do with logistics and beavers, which had just been identified as a potential threat point. But thank you so much. We have been speaking with the Resident Electoral Commissioner of Osun State, Madam Oluwatoyin Babalola. Thank you for speaking with us this evening. I wish you well. I'm sure we'll be speaking with you in the course of our subsequent bulletins before the elections on Saturday. Thank you once again. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, Abia State Commissioner for Police Wilfred Afolabi says he would use strategic policing to change what's applicable in Abia State. Details of that and other stories in a moment. And more on security. The new Abia State Commissioner for Police, Wilfred Afolabi, says he will use strategic policing to strengthen security and make residents safer. He was speaking to journalists in Umuahia after assuming office. Afolabi also promised to improve professionalism through better training and effective policing. His predecessor, Danladi Issa, urged officers to give the new commissioner their full support. Afolabi is the 35th Commissioner of Police in Abia, taking over from Issa, who's been promoted to Assistant Inspector General of Police.
Because of my intelligent background, intelligence is really going to be given much priority. We are not going to pay lip service to it. We are going to make sure that the intelligence structures are re-engineered and intelligent network enhanced. Number two, the issue of mutual trust, which I'm going to address through the instrumentality of community safety partnership. Another one, which is the third one, is capacity building. Topics like emotional intelligence, human rights. Now that the general election is just by the corner, our men need to be lectured on the electoral acts so that they will know their left from their right. Crime mapping, crime nippings, even investigation.
Well, the Nigerian Air Force says a precision airstrike in Sambisa Forest has killed 9 ISWAP fighters, including a key commander. The NAF identified the commander as Abu Khalid Al Muhajir, reportedly responsible for providing security escorts for senior ISWAP members. The Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force Headquarters, Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodame, disclosed this in a statement, saying the operation demonstrated the effectiveness of intelligence-led air operations, particularly the integration of persistent surveillance with precision strike capabilities. Well, we'll have him in the studio to discuss further. Hassan Sadiq, a security analyst, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So this news about the killing of Abu Khalid Al Muhajir, I mean, how significant is that to ISWAP's operations?
In fact, it's a good one. That's a good news. One of the significance is that they have been degraded in the first places. Psychologically, they'll be weakening by targeting that and doing that operations by the Air Force. In fact, from now onward, I would say categorically that the future is very bright in terms of Nigerian air power.
So before you get to Nigeria's air power, you think that taking out the commander at this level would significantly disrupt their planning and execution of their
in
plans?
any operations, either non-state actors or state actors, and your commander is being taken out, what is left? Because commander has to lead. He has to bring the willpower and why the followers and the foot soldier will now move. By the Air Force, particularly target the commander. So that is why I said it's a good one. The future is bright. So, because for them to be able to organize and start having a new commander again, it takes time.
Okay, but the Air Force has described this as, I want to get they said, intelligence-led precision strike.
Yes.
Does that signify a change in the operations of Nigerian military in terms of executing this war against insurgents?
No, all is combined because you need intelligence. Intelligence will help you because we have been able to use intelligence to gather information and now be able to have the power, because having intelligence is quite different from having the power to get there. So you could see that the Air Force has the two power so far, intelligence and the air power to strike. And the strike is not just strike, precision strike, which now come back that the equipment to have a precision strike. It is a key. That is why I said so far the future is going to be bright.
But is a precision strike enough? What about following through with boots on ground?
In fact, sometimes we normally say that those who end the war is the Air Force. The foot soldier is just to go and commit in case there's any remnant. But first of all, you need to have the air power. The air power has to move in first. Intelligence has to go, because when they are denoting anything, it has to be precise. That is why you now have precise engineer who will now be able to do the work. Then what equipment are you taking there? If it's a helicopter, if it's a fighter jet, if you are using surveillance to gather in your information, what kind of air power are you using? What the kind of the fighter jet you are using? What are the bombs attached to it? How are you going to denote it?
So you're not concerned about, we've had stories about accidental bombings.
Yes, sometimes you might have what we call accidental, which is not planned. But because of what has happened, because in some cases you might not be 100%. But this one, it is 100%. That is why we said it's a good one. Anywhere in the world, by air power, sometimes you have that, sometimes you don't have that. But in most cases, the accidental are lower than the achievement they've achieved. Because for you to get the commander and get it at the right time, it is a good one. So we need to applaud Nigerian Air Force.
So we really do applaud the Nigerian military and their efforts.
Air Force together.
Yeah, but in terms of teamwork, in terms of coming together, interagency relations, now some will say, okay, the Air Force has done this precision airstrike, intelligence-led. With the army and the footmen, would they have enough intelligence to go in there and comb effectively? What about the issues of saboteurs?
Yes, saboteur, you cannot still eliminate it out. Because even in the Air Force, there might be saboteur. In the Army, who are on the ground, there might also be saboteur. But the good thing that once they be able to, the air has done their part, it is now left for the ground now to move in and comb. In case of any remnant, they'll be able to see how you make sure you neutralize everything completely out, so that they cannot be able to have time to regroup. Yes. So that is why I said the future is bright. Now, the point I'm trying to raise, if you understand, since in 2023 till date, about 8,000 terrorists has been destroyed. About 11 of them, those ones who believe that they wanted to surrender. But the good thing that the government has done recently, from 2023 to 2024, about 24 fighter jets has been finalized. Payment is ongoing, and this cost us about 1.2 billion pounds. Now, what does that mean? If Nigerian Air Force today, you have 24 fighter jets, which means you can handle about 10 areas at the same time based on intelligence. And this will now also come with UAV, unmanned area vehicle, which is drone that are going to use to get intelligent. Then at that time, your fighter jet, you can be able to say, okay, I want to take on in this terrorist about 7, 5, 8, 10 at the same time. Just the way they did it in different locations. So these are where such arms deal has never been finalized in Africa before. This is the first time. That is also applause to the current government, what they have done in security. In fact, we need to understand that security is not about what you see, it's about what you know. By the time now that comes, it will take you 3 months, 4 months, you'll not hear anything. So these are air power we've not been able to achieve over the years, over time, as a Nigerian. Because that is why we call it your offensive capability. You need to be building on it at each regime that, okay, at this now you have in the power, how many fighter jets do we have?
You know,
okay.
you almost always use the offensive capability.
Offensive capability, yes, we have to,
to,
because it's key. Offensive capability now comes that, okay, the Air Force will tell you, well, based on the air power today, we have about 50 fighter jets, and we have the pilots that are on ground, which means you can take on 20, 30 at the same time, because you also needed the pilot that will take it. All the ammunitions, all has to be on ground. That is your offensive capability.
Thank you very much. Hassan Sadiq is a security analyst. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Yes, thank you.
Staying with security matters, countries across the Sahel and Lake Chad Basin are pushing for a more coordinated response to insecurity, trafficking, climate change, and humanitarian crisis. Nigerian diplomats and regional representatives have developed a Sahel Development Compact and Maiduguri roadmap to turn those commitments into measurable actions. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports.
Across the Sahel and Lake Chad Basin, insecurity, humanitarian emergencies and climate pressures continue to cross national borders. Diplomats say tackling these challenges requires countries in the region to move beyond individual responses and work from a common strategy. That approach has now produced 2 documents, the Sahel Development Compact and the Maiduguri Roadmap, designed to guide coordinated regional action.
Currently, we realize there are challenges in our relation, but under the specific instruction of Mr. President, our job as diplomats is to engage, to hobble our capacity to work on common challenges such as terrorism. In that context, we spoke about the receding waters of the Lake Chad, Lake Chad, and to see how we can elevate discussions beyond mere pledges towards raising the huge sum of money that will be required to recharge the waters.
The framework is built around 7 areas, including diplomatic and political engagement, security and intelligence cooperation, economic development, food and water security, humanitarian action, implementation and advocacy.
Let us push for coordinated action, for better information sharing, and for resources to be allocated where they matter most.
For the diplomats, the real test now is implementation. They say the compact must translate into concrete interventions.
We have to join our efforts, our force, to beat the terrorism out of our countries. And the Nigerian Republic have to take the lead.
There is a need to collaborate with the traditional institutions, because the traditional leaders has intelligence that are very, very vital and very, very convenient for, arresting such insecurity in the region.
The proposed framework represents an attempt to give countries facing shared challenges a common platform for action. Its proponents say sustained cooperation and effective implementation will be critical to building a more secure and resilient Sahel and Lake Chad Basin. In Borno State for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
And still ahead on the 6th edition, a visit to an orphanage in Kogi State inspires a 16-year-old to take action. We'll bring you details of these and other stories in a moment. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, here's a recap of our top stories. 9 ISWAP fighters killed in Sambisa airstrike by Nigerian Air Force. Sierra Leone President Bio's proposed electoral reform sparks political tensions. And drone attack rocks Tatarstan, leaves 13 dead and 75 injured. A visit to an orphanage in Etahi, Kogi State has inspired 16-year-old Nadia Zakaria to take action. After seeing children sleeping on the floor, Nadia rallied friends, family and members of the public to provide a new, fully equipped facility. What began with one visit has now become a major intervention aimed at giving the children a safer and more dignified place to live. News Central's Mono Balagbobo reports.
For the children of Oiza Salem Divine Orphanage Home in Etahi, this is a new beginning, a new place to sleep, learn, grow, and dream. The intervention began with a visit by Nadia Zakaria, who saw children sleeping on the floor. Moved by compassion, she decided to act, mobilizing support from family, friends, and members of the public to give the children a better place to live.
I had come to this orphanage and I saw that there were children sleeping on the floor. And I believe that children should have an opportunity to dream and the ability to have a safe home.
That decision has become a newly constructed and fully equipped facility with improved accommodation and amenities, including air conditioning and a water heating system.
Where they were saying there was no ventilation there. But thank God now, there are ventilation, ACs and everything there. There's a heater to burn water there.
For the home, the intervention also strengthens an effort to give vulnerable children opportunities beyond their immediate circumstances.
Very uplifting to know that I, just me myself as a 16-year-old, has made a change in many lives and hopefully I will continue to make a change in more lives as well.
Her mother, Natasha Akwotu-Dwagan, says she is proud that her daughter conceived the idea and independently mobilized the resources to make it happen.
All through the construction, she paid about 3 visits to ensure that things were going right according to plan. So I'm extremely proud of her.
But beyond the new facility, Nadia wants the project to serve as a reminder to other young people that meaningful change does not have to wait for age, wealth, or influence.
As long as you believe in yourself and you have a foundation that does and enough support from those who love you, you can do anything you can believe in.
Our dear daughter and sister.
Here in Etahi, one decision to care has become a tangible change in the lives of children who simply needed a better place to call home. In Kogi for News Central, Morno Balagugu.
You heard that right. Making impact doesn't need to wait for age. You can start from where you are as you are. But let's move on and look at education. A new report is questioning why hundreds of thousands of approved admission spaces remain unused in Nigeria's tertiary institutions, even as many young Nigerians struggle to gain admission. The I Read to Live initiative says about 1.7 million admission spaces were approved in 2025, but only about 1 million were filled, leaving more than 706,000 spaces vacant. The report says the problem goes beyond capacity, pointing to a mismatch between available courses, candidates' choices, qualifications, and access. It is urging JAM to publish clearer admission data, explain cutoff marks, and expand access to CBT centers ahead of the 2027 UTME. And staying with education, artificial intelligence is already changing how Nigerians learn, teach, and access information. From lesson planning to research and personalized learning, AI tools are becoming more common in classrooms. But experts say the technology also brings risk, including inaccurate information, plagiarism, and unequal access. They're calling for clear guidelines and responsible use to ensure AI improves education rather than deepen existing gaps.
Conversations around the use of AI, across various sectors of the economy, particularly education in Nigeria. And, there have been conversations around whether or not AI has come to take some jobs, whether or not AI has come to, help particularly educators. And with me here is, someone who is able to speak better on this, subject matter. He's the special advisor to the Minister of Technology and Digital Economy. His name is Mr. Francis Sunny. He will be, shedding more light. Please come. We've been talking about the use of AI, particularly. So I want you to talk about the use of AI in education. Particularly, you were talking about, some measures, because there have been fears that whether or not AI is going to take jobs, or, whether we can manage or control the use of AI in technology. So I want you to speak to that, sir.
I think in general, artificial intelligence is a tool that people have to use. I think in education in general, we're recently seeing a lot more students using technology. Obviously, in some cases, there's obviously issues like plagiarism and the likes. However, there are new systems that are being created to be able to ensure that even lecturers on the other side are able to, effectively deal with this. I think the more important thing is that how do we empower people to be able to know how to use these tools accurately? There's obviously the elements where there's potentials where if people rely on the tools fully, then the elements of critical thinking potentially can be lost. But if we learn how to use responsible use of AI to be able to ensure that as a part of conceptualization and the process of actually getting things done, we're not using AI just to be able to create outputs, but to be able to refine knowledge, to be able to understand things better. I think the potential that it has for our education system is significant.
All right, we'll go on another quick break. When we return, we'll be looking at Tanzania's treason trial that has resumed. Tundu Lissu is back in court. Details now. Welcome back. Tanzania's opposition leader, Tundu Lissu, is back in court as the treason trial resumes after a 5-month pause. Lissu has been in detention since April 2025 and faces a treason charge that carries the death penalty. His party, Chadema, was barred from last year's elections, while the party says the case is politically motivated. Lissu also accuses prosecutors of delaying the trial to prolong his detention as concerns over Tanzania's democratic space continues to grow. In the meantime, Sierra Leone's President Julius Bio is pushing for changes to the country's electoral system ahead of the 2028 presidential elections, despite the opposition to some of the proposed reforms. The disputed bill would lower the threshold for winning the presidency from 55% to 50% plus one vote. It would also introduce proportional representation in parliament and establish a 30% quota for women in political leadership. Bio's ruling party says the reforms would reduce the cost and political tensions associated with presidential runoffs. But the opposition wants the existing 55% threshold retained, arguing that it ensures the eventual winner has broader national support. President Bio is now urging Parliament to pass the reforms after weeks of disagreement over the proposed change. And in the United Kingdom, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has unveiled plans to deport convicted criminals to countries including El Salvador and Kosovo to serve their prison sentences. Farage and the party's Home Affairs spokesperson Zia Yusuf announced the proposal at a press conference ahead of the Clacton by-election. The plan would see certain foreign national offenders removed from Britain and transferred to partner countries to serve their sentences as part of Reform UK's wider approach to tackling crime and migration.
I think the biggest issue in our national, and that is where keeping criminals behind bars, that is where this document comes in. Because, once again,
cross-country roads at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour.
No one is claiming that this job is done.
Natural disasters, Typhoon Dolphin may be weakening, but the danger is far from over in eastern China. Heavy rain has triggered flood warnings, grounded hundreds of flights, and disrupted transport as authorities warn that the storm's effects could continue into Tuesday. News Central senior international correspondent Afia Hagen has this report.
Typhoon Dolphin is weakening, but its impact is still being felt across eastern China. Heavy rain battered parts of the region on Monday, disrupting air and rail travel and raising fresh fears of flooding and landslides. The storm made 2 landfalls along the coast of Zhejiang province on Sunday before losing strength. China's National Meteorological Center has downgraded its typhoon warning to the lowest level, but says intense rainfall will continue across parts of eastern and central China. And for some communities, the danger is far from over. Authorities have issued the highest level flash flood warning for parts of eastern and southern Zhejiang, with residents urged to remain alert. Travel has also been severely disrupted. At Shanghai's 2 main airports, more than 900 flights were cancelled, whilst local train and other public transport services were suspended. There are signs of a gradual return to normality. Ningbo International Airport began resuming flights from midday, although passengers were warned to expect further delays and cancellations. In Hangzhou, subway services restarted on Monday morning after some operations were halted on Sunday. But the severe weather is not confined to the east. In Beijing, 5 districts have issued red alerts for heavy rain, with warnings of possible flooding and landslides. At its peak over the weekend, Typhoon Dolphin triggered China's highest emergency alert, forced more than 1,000 flight cancellations, and led to tens of thousands of people being evacuated. And it's the latest in a series of deadly storms to hit the country. Last month, Typhoon Maysak triggered devastating flooding in Jiangxi, killing 39 people, while storms linked to the system killed another 11 in Hubei. Scientists warned that as global temperatures rise, extreme rainfall and powerful storms are likely to become more intense, leaving China facing an increasingly difficult challenge of adapting to a changing climate. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
At least 13 people, including a child, have been killed in the Ukrainian drone strike on Russia's Republic of Tatarstan. Russian authorities say another 75 people were injured in the attack, making it one of the deadliest single strikes on Russian territory since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The drones reportedly targeted the city of Nizhnekamsk, located more than 1,100 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Ukraine's armed forces have confirmed that a Tarnevo oil refinery in the city was hit, while Ukrainian defense technology company Firepoint says its FP-1 drones were used in the operation. The attack reportedly lasted several hours, stretching from overnight into the morning. Verified images showed flames and thick smoke rising from the affected area as emergency crews responded to the strike. And the family of former Palestinian ambassador to Lebanon, Ashraf Dabor, has asked Lebanese authorities not to extradite him over corruption and embezzlement allegations. Lebanese authorities recommended his extradition after a Palestinian Authority warrant, but the transfer requires approval from Lebanon's Justice Minister, President, and Prime Minister. Dabor's family says he's critically ill and should be tried in Lebanon, while the National Human Rights Commission warns of possible torture and arbitrary detention. And that's all at this hour for news for the 6th edition. But before we go, here's another look at some of our major stories. 9 ISWAP fighters killed in Sambisa airstrike by Nigerian Air Force. Sierra Leone's Abia proposed electoral reform sparks political tensions. And drone attack rocks Tatarstan, leaves 13 dead and 75 injured. Remember, you may send in your eyewitness reports to that WhatsApp number showing on your screen. We encourage you to follow us on social media, all the platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Neo Taigbe. In the course of our broadcasting, we will be going to Osun State, where Governor Adeleke will be speaking at one of his last campaigns ahead of the elections.